Hello once again, children. Today we're going to be looking at the first sense organ. We looked at the brain, we looked at the spinal cord, we looked at the reflex action, and of course we're going to practice more and more questions as time goes on. But let us look at the two sense organs that is required of us in the grade 12 syllabus, and the first one being the eye and the second one being the ear. We'll first look at the structure and let's look at some questions based on it. Now, the eye is responsible for the sensation of sight. Now, not only is it responsible for the sensation of sight, there are many other factors associated with sight. But as I go through this, we will go find out about it slowly. Okay? So let's look at the structure of the eye, and there are various ways of remembering the structure of the eye. Remember, for the brain, we learned about a few mnemonics. For the spinal cord, the reflex arc, we learned about Roy, Stop Calling Me. So with the eye, there are three layers to the eye. Oh, by the way, you know the eye is protected by the eye orbit, that is that part of the skull inside which the eye is housed. It's also got your eyelids and your eyelashes. There's a thin membrane that is found over your cornea, which is like the window to your eye, and that is called your conjunctiva. It is this membrane that becomes infected and you land up with conjunctivitis or pink eyes. So the three layers of the eye, you remember as Scar. No? Remember Scar was one of the characters in which movie? One of my most favorite movies. And that movie would be, yes, Lion King. Okay, so if you're looking at the word scar, S, C, and I'm putting A in small letters because it is just as a fuller letter. So those are the three layers of the eye. The S standing for sclera. So let me just show you this using drawings. So you can find out, like for example, this outermost layer here, that would be the sclera. I should have drawn that a little bit. That's a sclera. That's the white part of the eye. So if you're looking at somebody's eye, the white part of the eye that you see is a sclera, which comes right from the back to the front. Sclera, S. Highly protective, non-elastic, and it is non-transparent. It doesn't allow light to pass through. Main function is protection. The second part of the eye that you see labeled as C here, that is the choroid. Deeply pigmented, notice it's so dark there. Pigment means you got coloring. Deeply pigmented to prevent internal reflection of light. So anything that's dark in color tends to absorb light. So if it absorbs light, it prevents light from being reflected. And the other thing is that it is richly supplied with blood vessels to provide nutrition to the eye. So two things about the choroid: deeply pigmented to prevent internal reflection, and it's got a rich supply of blood vessels for nutrition. And the third part of the eye, let me draw a line, and that is like such an important part of the eye here. That is now your retina. Okay, let's just put in these labels and be a little clever and put in these labels, okay, darlings? So here, this part that I've now put in over here, that would be your retina. Now, the retina is so important because it has got the receptors for light. Remember, in order to produce a sensation or a reaction, there must be something picking up a stimulus. And those things that pick up a stimulus are called receptors. The receptors in the eye are found only in the retina. So if the retina is damaged, my darlings, you'll not be able to see because there's nothing that will pick up the stimulus of light. No impulse will be created. No impulse will be taken to your cerebrum, and you will never be able to interpret anything. Thus, you will not be able to see. And it does happen in certain people where the retina slowly disintegrates. So that's your retina. The two receptors found in the retina are your rods and cones. Cones are sensitive to bright light and to color vision. Cone starts with C. And rods are sensitive to dim light and to black and white vision. So cones for color and the rods would be for black and white. Cones for bright light, rods will be for dim light. So there's your retina. What was this label here? Can you remember? Yeah, that was the first layer of the eye. Let's put it in. Oh, sclera. Okay, and what did we say label C was? That was the one that was deeply pigmented choroid. Okay, that's how you spell. So we know those three labels thus far. That's how you remember it, scar. Is that okay so far? Then if you look at the retina, you see like two bumps over here. Those are the two important spots on the retina. This one, which lies directly opposite this structure here, sorry, which is called the lens. Let me put the label in for this one here. This is your lens, my darlings. L-E-N-S, that's your lens. So the part of the retina directly opposite the lens is called the yellow spot. It is called the area of clearest vision. You want all the light that enters to finally be focused on the yellow spot to see something absolutely clear. So there's your yellow spot, highest concentration of cones, yellow spot. And then this little kink over here is your blind spot. So whilst this has got your cones in high concentration, this has got no rods, no cones. No rods, no cones. Okay, my darlings? So if light happens to fall here, no impulse will be created. And therefore you would never be able to see from where the light came. Remember, light is reflected off an object into your eye. So if you find that there is a car that is coming and you haven't seen the car, but the light from the car reflected into your eye, now the reason why you didn't see it is because that light landed on your blind spot and therefore you couldn't see it. So very importantly, my darlings, if light lands on your blind spot, you will never be able to create an impulse and thus you would not be able to see the object. Which is why when you are learning how to drive, they ask you to look over your shoulder at an intersection. Just very quickly, don't look at your shoulder and keep your head there. You meet with an accident. So very quickly look over your shoulder. So if there's a car coming up, the light from the car will not reach your blind spot, but will hit your yellow spot and you'd be able to see it and prevent an accident. Okay, so that is your blind yellow spot, that is your blind spot. This label E is your optic nerve. So remember I spoke to you about your rods and cones being stimulated and impulses being created. Who will take the impulse away from the eye because the impulse has to travel, and that will be your optic nerve. And this optic nerve will find its destination in your cerebrum. Remember we said, Jim the fourth, the eye, it receives and interprets impulses from your sense organs or interprets all sensations. So that is your optic nerve. By the way, the optic nerve only takes impulses towards your cerebrum. Impulses don't come down from your cerebrum to your eye. No, it only goes upwards, so it only has sensory neurons. Oh, we've learned quite a bit so far. 3 layers of the eye, the yellow spot, the blind spot, the optic nerve. Let's go forward. Okay, that there, remember I told you that there's a thin membrane that would represent your conjunctiva. This spot here is your conjunctiva. B now, my darlings, is your cornea. Notice it is convex. It's convex to refract or bend the light rays. So the light rays will come in through there, bend. Oh, let me try drawing again, isn't that so? So if we try drawing, the light rays will come in through here and we'll have to bend. So somewhere, I didn't draw it like that there. And we'll have to like somewhere bend like this, okay? I'm just doing it like that just to show you the bending part of it. Darling, it'll have to bend to meet onto that yellow spot. Okay, so very important. anything that is convex will cause the light rays to bend. So notice this is convex, that is your cornea, and notice your lens is biconvex, means it's convex on both its surfaces. So it also serves to refract the light rays onto the yellow spot. Forgive me. So that is now your cornea. Now the cornea, papas, is transparent to allow the light to come through. Okay, and it is convex to refract the light rays. Beyond your cornea is a cavity, an area that is filled with fluid. That is called, the area is called the anterior chamber. You don't have to know the label, papas, but the fluid here is called aqueous humor, which is a watery fluid, which keeps the cornea rounded, very importantly, and also provides nutrition. Following that, my darlings, okay, following that, let's go to your drawing again. Okay. Following that, sorry about this. I swear to God, I don't have the coronavirus. Well, I hope so. So this here, darlings, that and that represent one structure. And that structure that it represents, my darlings, over here, on this side here, what would that be? It would be the colored part of your eye. Sorry, babies. It would be the colored part of your eye. And what is the colored part of your eye called? Your iris. So that is your iris. Okay, so those are the eyes. Remember, you're looking at your eye from the side. So that's your iris. And the gap that is found in between here is the black that you see in the center of your eye. That is your pupil. The pupil is actually a hole. Okay, now the size of the pupil is controlled by the iris. Therefore, the iris has got muscles which contract or relax to control the size of the pupil. Beyond this, this is now, once again, what did we say was that label over there, which we took out, my babies? That is now your lens. And we said, first of all, it is biconvex. It is curved on this side, curved on that side. Remember, bi means two. It is also transparent to allow the light to pass through. And thirdly, my darlings, it is elastic. It is elastic so it can become thinner, less biconvex, or fatter, more biconvex. But we'll see that later on. And the last part of the eye is this posterior chamber, which is filled with a thicker fluid called vitreous humor, which keeps the eyeball rounded. And you'll see later on why it needs to be rounded. So as a recap, let's look at what we have learned. 3 layers of the eye, which you remember as scar, sclera, choroid, retina. On the retina, you got your yellow spot and your blind spot, and impulses will be created to be going here via the optic nerve to the cerebrum. That's your optic nerve. Then there's your conjunctiva, which is found over the cornea. So B is your cornea. This is your iris, which has got muscles which controls the size of the pupil. This anterior chamber is filled with aqueous humor. This is your lens. This is your posterior chamber, which has got your vitreous humor, vitreous. And let's look at the lens. The lens is held in position by like elastic bands here. These elastic bands, my darlings, those are called suspensory ligaments. Suspensory ligaments. Suspensory ligaments. Okay. And then, my darlings, you've got here, those are muscles which will cause the suspensory ligaments to do various things. So those are your ciliary muscles. They're not ciliary muscles, they're ciliary muscles. So this part here would be your ciliary muscles, sorry, here. And these threads here are your suspensory ligaments. Go through that, look at these questions, and when I see you next, babies, I'll be looking at all of these questions and looking at your response to these questions. God bless you. Until the next time I see you.